Welcome into Los Angeles, California. I'm Bill Reiter, and this is Reiter's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook Watch. Happy Thursday. Great show planned for you. Called up with Gilbert Arenas earlier. I promise you, you do not want to miss that interview. It was awesome and something. Juwan Howard is now the head coach at Michigan. We'll go inside the numbers on how that could go. And we've got an interesting NBA take, that and more, right now, starting on CBS Sports HQ. All right, so I'm sitting around the other day, and I'm watching a little NBA coverage like we tend to, and Paul Pierce said something crazy, which on the face of it isn't really news. Paul Pierce says something outlandish about the NBA. It feels like every other day. But this time around, it struck a chord. He made the argument, he made the case that if Steve Kerr went on to make his fifth straight NBA Finals appearance as a coach, which obviously he did, he'd be a top 5 coach in the history of the game. Now, that one's not true, at least not yet. I'm not there. But it got me thinking about the underappreciation of Steve Kerr, the coach, Steve Kerr, the player, Steve Kerr, the impact guy, just all around in his career in the NBA in a multitude of roles. And I wondered, beyond talent, just the idea of being a stone-cold winner, is it possible Steve Kerr, and we're going to do modern era here, sorry, old-timers like Bill Russell and Bob Cousy, we're going Magic Johnson, Larry Bird arriving in the NBA and beyond. Is it possible Steve Kerr is one of the, if not the, all-time winners? Just that thing you have when you walk into a room, into a locker room, onto a team, into a company, where you just, by your presence, have a dynamic and an impact that makes you a stone-cold winner. And lest we forget many of the things Steve Kerr's doing, he himself, after that win, pointed out how rare it is to have done what he and his team has done this year.
I hope it doesn't go unnoticed or underrated. 5 straight finals hasn't been done since the 60s, since Bill Russell's Celtics. Hasn't been done for a reason. It's really, really difficult.
Look, the reality is that what Steve Kerr has done is nothing short of incredible. And there's a difference, by the way, between talent and being a winner. I'm not making the argument Steve Kerr is as talented as LeBron James or any other player, Michael Jordan, in the history of the game. But some people, whether it's in my business or your business or the business of the NBA, have an impact. Their presence and what they do and what they accomplish, it changes the nature of success for the folks around them. And just consider Steve Kerr's career. The 1997 title winner, when Jordan passes him the rock in John Paxson style, he hits that shot against Utah. I remember a huge shot. And that shot, one of the reasons that he's got 5 NBA championship rings as a player. Obviously, that was the one. He got 5. He shot 45% from the three-point line in his career. He's a 3-time NBA champion as a head coach with Golden State, going to be 4 very, very soon. As we just noted, he's made 5 straight NBA Finals as a coach. Hasn't been done since Red Auerbach a long time ago. He changed the game. He did by unleashing Steph Curry and being the most important thing you can do when you manage talent. Bring out the best in them. He changed the game in terms of going small, and Draymond Green, the primary beneficiary of that. This is a guy who is special on a level, in a way, we've rarely ever seen. And that success, and frankly, what he did as a player, it breeds respect. It breeds guys willing to buy in and trust what you have to say as a coach. They understand, like Klay Thompson, that Steve Kerr's a winner, and he's someone they got to listen to in whatever respect he's addressing.
What is someone going to tell me about my jump shot that I can't fix at this point? Unless it's Reggie Miller or Ray Allen, I don't know who I'm supposed to listen to. Larry Bird? Steve Kerr, I'll listen to Steve. Steve shot 45%. But other than that, it's like I've done this job for a long enough time. I know what I need to do.
Players, athletes, all of us, we're an accumulation of the lessons that we've learned along the way, and often the people that we've learned from. Think who Steve Kerr has had the opportunity to glean excellence in the NBA from. Around Michael Jordan, around Phil Jackson, around Greg Popovich. Able to tap into the greatness that was, fairly overlooked in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Has now coached Kevin Durant. Has gone up against LeBron James. all of those lessons have turned him into a modern NBA coaching legend, certainly over the last 5 years. And you add that on to what he did as a player, and I'm telling you, this guy is one of the game's all-time winners. And I think one of the interesting things that makes him able to reach players and bring out the best is not just his excellence as a player, but the fact that he did it as a role player, as a specialist. And it's something that he addressed, as you can see in this quote here, that I think is really interesting. It also sort of harkens back to the people he's learned from, talking about, as you can see there, his ability to relate to guys much better than other folks, right? And the idea that he learned from Phil Jackson in Chicago how important it was to engage guys on the other end of the bench and to build a winning culture that goes beyond the superstar. Now think about that lesson, and how much it applies to what they do in Golden State. How he took guys in Steph and Draymond and Clay that very few of us thought would be superstars, let alone all-timers, let alone Hall of Famers, and was able to blend his approach, his culture, his experience into turning them into winners. Steve Kerr, and I've been around the guy, I've covered the guy. When he walks in a room, there's a presence, there's a difference. His father was a diplomat who was killed in Libya many years ago when Kerr was young. He's talked about that experience. He brings gravitas and real-world experience and championships as a player and the ability to be a shooter and these life lessons from Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, and he has turned it into a career in which, at least in the modern NBA, you can make the argument he's the greatest winner that the game has seen. Now, here's a list of some of the people I think belong on there. Phil Jackson obviously has a ton of them. He's probably at the top of anybody's list, but he did 11 of them as a coach, 2 as a player. And I know some of these sort of go beyond the modern era. I get it, but if you want some of the modern era, we got you on here. Pat Riley's on the top of the list. 9 rings, 1 as a player, 5 as a coach, 1 as an assistant, 3 as an executive. Jerry West and his 9 rings as an advisor, largely at times, in Golden State, tacking on a bunch. I put Steve Ori on there because Big Shot Bob's got to be on there. Jordan and Kareem, 6 rings only as players. Greg Popovich, 5 rings. But Pop never did it as a player. Never did it as a player. Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson were failures in their roles as executives and remain failures. Certainly Michael Jordan as an owner in Charlotte, that has not gone well. I know Steve Kerr had some years as the GM in Phoenix where it didn't work, but he's been able to transcend being not just a great player, or at least a championship player, to being the next level as a winner and a head coach. For me, as much as we talk about Steph Curry and where he ranks all time, worthy conversation. Klay Thompson, where he belongs as a shooter, worthy conversation. Can the Bucks or the Raptors, whoever wins tonight, emerge, whoever wins the series, emerge as a contender to the Warriors? Worthy conversation. But we want to take a minute here on the show, sports fans, and just give Steve Kerr his due. It is hard to hit those shots when Michael Jordan gives you the rock and expects you to hit it. There will be punishments if you don't do it. It is hard to be the guy that's always clutch when need be, and it's hard to be the guy to go into a place like the Warriors and turn them into an actual, fully functioning, utterly dominating dynasty, and to keep doing it when Kevin Durant goes down. Steve Kerr, he's not the greatest player we've ever seen, obviously. He's not the greatest coach in the history of the game. Sorry, Paul Pierce, not top 5. But the man is an NBA stone-cold winner, and he's an all-timer in that respect. And that is something to keep your eye on as you make some bets and as you try to figure out who's going to win this NBA Finals. Steph Curry, Giannis, Kawhi, cool. Don't bet against Steve Kerr. People have been doing it for way too long, and they have often come up short. Great interview earlier with Gilbert Arenas. A little off the chain, really fun, really candid. You're going to love it. Please don't go anywhere. We're going to come back in a second, and we're going to visit with a former NBA star and podcaster on Reiter's Block here in just a minute. All right, welcome back into Reiter's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook. Watch caught up with a former NBA player and current podcaster Gilbert Arenas earlier today. It was a really interesting interview. Take a look. Our Gilbert Arenas, host of the No Chill podcast, longtime NBA player, multi-time All-Star. I love having you on the show. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Love the podcast. Really authentic, really candid, right? Like, as you would expect. And one of the things that struck me, I was actually listening to this in the car, and I'm no NBA player, but it just struck me for the rest of us in real life. You gave Josh Hart some, thought, really interesting advice about what he needs to do in terms of whether he should or should not adjust the basketball player he is to whatever his coaches want him to do. For folks who missed it on the No Chill podcast, can you tell us sort of what his dilemma was and the advice you gave him? Because I thought it was great.
When we have this idea as players and just people, period, that we need to adjust and conform to fit better, which if that's not your natural talent, you won't be good at adjusting. You're really doing something that you're not really comfortable with or you're not really skilled at. So it's like a great boss or a great coach will understand that, okay, I'm going to let you do what you do, and then I'm going to adjust to you so I can bring out the best talent in what you're skilled at.
We just got done talking about Steve Kerr, and just as a coach and a former player, the run he's on. How much of his success in Golden State do you think is less about Steve Kerr, the genius, and more Steve Kerr letting Steph Curry, letting Draymond Green, finding a way to let these guys actually be who they were supposed to be on the floor?
It's more of him as a people's coach, a player's coach is what we call them. And this is why I always am a big believer in, if you've never played the game at a high level, it's really hard to be successful as a coach unless you're a great people person, because at the end of the day, every player, every person is different. So if you can't adapt to different personalities, it would be hard to be a coach in any sport. Like, this is not the 80s where you just get to beat up on players over and over, because everyone doesn't react the same. So you have to be able to get the best out of each player. So you have to know their personalities.
All right, so we've got Andre Iguodala saying Steph Curry's the second best player of all time. Obviously, Steph's playing really well with Kevin Durant injured. For you, and his career is ongoing. It's obviously still unfolding. But what's the proper way to regard Steph Curry relative to, or not, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants, whatever that list is of some of the greats of all time?
I remember when I said on my it wasn't my podcast, it was the TV show Out of Bounds that I was on, and I said, Steph Curry isn't a top 5 point guard, and everyone freaked out. And I was like, no, like, you have to understand what a point guard is and a guard is. And I said, he's a top 3 player in the NBA. He's not a top 5 point guard. It's what he does on the floor compared to a Steve Nash, a Magic Johnson, a John Stockton. They're different. So it's unfair to both categories to say, all right, we're going to take his scoring stats and put him against his assist stats. And no, he's a guard. You have to put them all as guards. And as a guard, I think he's top 4 or 5 guards of all time.
Yeah, I mean, that is big. That is big time praise. I want to ask you about the Lakers a little bit. In a second, I want to get to LeBron and his sort of off court. I mean, LeBron James, and I'm not sure people realize. Let's just start there. The dude is a renaissance man. He's involved in social justice issues. He's got a very successful media production conglomerate. I mean, the guy, he's an entrepreneur who's invested in pizza shops that make a bunch of money. How do you think LeBron has changed the view of the NBA player, not just on the floor, but beyond what goes on over the course of a basketball game or a basketball season or a basketball career?
He's this generation's Michael Jordan. When you talk about off the court stuff, when you think about Jordan back in the 80s and the 90s, wearing the suits, being the class act. I mean, he was teaching athletes how to be professional. We didn't really see Michael Jordan dibble and dabble into the outside world until later on, when he was done or he was out of the NBA. Then it's like, oh, Michael Jordan has a race car company. Like, oh, okay, that's different. So to really see like an active athlete, especially as a basketball player, to be a businessman also while he's playing, makes you more than an athlete. It's like, I can dibble and dabble and still be a great player. I don't have to wait till I'm done to do this.
LeBron, and I don't think people paid attention to this, but had a great season this year when he wasn't hurt. But you're in Southern California. I'm in Southern California. We know, the whole world knows, the Lakers are an absolute hot mess right now. And I like Magic Johnson as a guy, and I like Jeannie Buss a lot as a person. I won't pretend to know Rob Pelinka, but just from your vantage point as a guy who's here, who played the game at a high level, who knows a lot of people around the NBA, what do you think the status and the future of the Lakers really, where do you think those things really stand right now?
As the organization, just from the outside looking in, I think too many people want to take credit for everything. It's like everyone wants to claim, the power of all the moves that's going to be made, but no one wants to take the fall. So I think too many people want credit for LeBron coming, for the future, but if it fails, nobody wants to take credit for it. So it's like, if everyone just get in their rightful place, the boat will actually move better through the sea. It is the Lakers. You have LeBron. I hear Stephen A. Smith and all of them talk about nobody wants to play with LeBron. That's bull. It's if you want a championship, you want to play with LeBron. That's damn near a given. So players do want to play with LeBron. Players want to be in LA, but it's one of those things where, make it appealing, make it look appealing. Don't make it look like a show.
How likely do you think it is that Kyrie Irving, a Kawhi Leonard, a Kemba Walker, a highly, maybe not Kyrie or Kawhi, but a highly coveted max free agent is going to choose to come and play in LA this season, this summer, when free agency hits? How likely?
There's a lot of floating pieces. You got Klay Thompson, which would be ideal for LeBron. I don't think Klay leaves. Kevin Durant going to New York, doubt it. You're talking about a guy by 27 had 4 scoring titles, 1 MVP, 2 All-Star MVPs, 2 gold medals, 8 All-NBA, 8 All-Stars. He was a Hall of Famer by 27, so the only thing that was left was a championship and MVP, of the finals. So he basically cleared everything by the age of 28. So he will only go to a place where he's going to win a championship that year. So I don't really see him going back east. It'd either be with LeBron or stay put. From there, you have Jimmy Butler, which would be great for LeBron, Tobias Harris, Kawhi. I don't see Kawhi coming. I think Kawhi wants to stand alone. But at the end of the day, Kawhi is never – every place he's been, it's been a winning organization. So, Raptors won 50-something games last year, so he went to the number 1 team in the East. Kyrie, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to drive the boat by himself anymore, so he probably will be ideal. Kemba Walker would be an amazing piece. I don't think LA will like what they have to pay him, but he will be great. So if you can get Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker, and probably somebody like Tobias, I'm confident in that team. That is a great team with LeBron because he's gonna get the best out of those 3 players.
Yeah, no doubt. I love Kemba Walker. Gilbert, last question for you. The Eastern Conference Finals are now a best of 3. The series returns to Milwaukee tonight after Toronto beat up on the Bucks at home for Toronto. Who do you like tonight? Who do you like advancing to play the Warriors in the NBA Finals?
I'm just going to be honest. I don't even pay attention to the Eastern Conference. They don't have enough horses. Like, everyone can throw every analytic that they want that, if Bucks make it, they're long, they got 2 defensive players. Like, that's bull. Like, if you take KD off, you have Curry, who's averaging 36, Klay Thompson, who's averaging about 27 since KD's gone, Draymond, a damn near triple-double. If you take Greek off that team, there's no one capable of averaging 25 for a series. So why would you expect this team to actually compete against the Warriors, who actually have 3 Hall of Famers ready? Like, that's how lopsided this championship is. Like, they're not better without KD. They just don't need him for this series because there's no threat. Like, there's no LeBron, Kyrie, and Love going against them. You have Greek the Freak, who, if they slow down that series with Golden State, it hurts Greek the Freak and Bledsoe because they can't shoot from the outside. You speed it up, it favors Golden State. So you're at a disadvantage no matter how that looks. With Toronto, you have Kawhi, and then a bunch of role players. That doesn't get it done against stars. It doesn't get it done against stars. Like, Golden State has legit players. Like, you have one player in the playoffs right now who's capable of scoring 60. That's Klay Thompson, and he can do that in 30-something minutes. You have Curry, who's capable of scoring 50, but because he's the point guard, it takes more energy. On the other side, Greek the Freak, if he scores 50, he took a beating for that 50 because it's all to the basket. You know, with Kawhi, if he scores 50, he cuts out the rest of the team. So they just don't have enough horses to compete with Golden State this year. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not even gonna give you hope to say Bucks or Toronto can beat them. I mean, maybe if they combined as a group, yeah, they probably have a chance. But there's no chance in hell that any of those teams actually beat Golden State this year.
This is a perfect insight into the No Chill podcast. It is funny, it is smart, and it does not hold back. Gilbert Arenas will not lie to you, and I love that you didn't lie to us here on the show. Thanks, dude. Thanks for the candor. Thanks for the time. Really enjoyed the conversation.
All right, thank you for having me.
Love everything about that interview. I also love everything about our Game of Thrones segment. It's This Week on the Throne, NBA style. We'll unveil the winner when we come back to Reiter's Block here on CBS Sports HQ in mere moments. Welcome back into Reiter's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook Watch. It's time to go inside the numbers on the new head men's basketball coach at the University of Michigan, Juwan Howard. And we start with the number 19. Howard played 19 seasons in the NBA. It's tied for the 8th longest tenure in the history of the association. In his final 2 seasons, he won back-to-back titles with the Heat. That was in 2012 and 2013. Now another end of the spectrum, the number 0, as in Howard has 0, not a single season as a head coach at any level. He spent the past 6 seasons, though, as the assistant coach of the Miami Heat. So it's not like he's a novice to being a coach. 278 is next up. Juwan will have some big shoes to fill. His predecessor, John Beilein, has the most wins in Michigan men's basketball history with 278. Beilein now the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. 17, Beilein also holds the school record for wins to start a season. The 2018-19 Wolverines won their first 17 games to start that season, passing a record he himself set in 2012-13 with 16 straight. Finally, the number 2, Howard doesn't lack in achievements at Michigan. In his 3 collegiate seasons as a member of the Fab Five, Howard helped lead the way to 2 national championship appearances for the Wolverines. All right, we're going to make our last Game of Thrones inspired segment a lot better than the Game of Thrones finale, which subtracted from the sum of all human joy. It is This Week on the Throne, where we pit contenders, trial by stat, against each other. Here's what you thought was going to happen. Here's the poll that you expected between Kyle Lowry and Giannis, Malcolm Brogdon, and Kyle Lowry. I thought it was going to be Giannis. I thought Giannis would dominate. Actually thought that that Bucks team would pull off the upset. And at least it started well because Giannis against Kawhi went my way. Giannis able to outduel Kawhi Leonard in that Game 4. That was our first trial by stat. On the other side of the equation, Kyle Lowry best Malcolm Brogdon. Lowry had a great game, which is the reason, to the shock of everybody. This would be like, I don't know, Tyrion maybe? Sansa's cousin we never heard of, sitting on the Iron Throne. Kyle Lowry, the NBA throne is yours. After a career of often futile postseason attempts, you utterly dominated. Way to go. Way to go. Do you know who's not dominating? Me and Bill's big bet of the day. Those are boos and they should be. You should fade me. I'm 18-17. I'm in a free fall. I hate this line. I hate the burning passion. I'm very reluctantly taking the Bucks minus the 7. I'm going to lose. I'm trying to help you. I'm going to put my money on that. You should bet the other way because that's the way things are going. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Alex Verdugo, the Dodgers outfielder, the rookie, going to be on the program tomorrow. We'll see you then right here on Writer's Block on CBS Sports HQ.